Hello Cancer friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Cancer May 2021 Astrology Must Knows Horoscope Report. We are stepping right into eclipse season in May. It was starting to warm up in April. Eclipse season means radical changes, crazy trajectory shifts, going in a completely different direction than you had anticipated, or the coming to fruition of things long worked on and dreamed of. This is a very major time, plus we've got Mercury retrograde, plus we have other things to talk about. So this is the order of how we're going to progress in the video. The first thing we're going to do is talk about the things to celebrate specifically for Cancers this month. We're going to talk about the things to watch out for. We're going to talk about some specific strategies as a Cancer that you can use to manage the energies this month and always. If you didn't know before, I have been a coach for as long as I've been an astrologer, which is almost 20 years. And as such, I can't separate coaching from astrology. In my mind, coaching is on the self-development front where we're trying to improve aspects of our lives from the inside through the outside. And so I'm going to offer you some ideas of strategies for how you can clear out issues that come from your wiring and just let those positive parts of your Cancer wiring shine. Then we're going to talk about eclipse cycles, what to understand about them, the dates that we had this eclipse cycle last, the dates that this eclipse cycle, just to kind of, you can track your storylines and understand more about the Sagittarius Gemini implications. And then we'll talk specifically about what field of experience all the Cancer placements will be seeing this eclipse. Okay, so let's talk about the things to celebrate. We've got, first on the list, the planets still moving through Taurus. We've got the Sun moving through Taurus until towards the end of May. We've got, for a little while longer, Mercury and Venus moving through Taurus. And for Cancers, this is a good thing because they create a nice angle for you that is full of opportunities that you can put your emotions into tangible actions. Cancers are known for being very strongly emotional, and you can put the feelings that you have into productive action when there are Taurus placements and accomplish a great bit of things that you've been trying to do on your list. Now, it's very important to note, another thing to celebrate is that for the first half of May, we've got, well, actually from the middle of March through the first half of May, through around May 15th, we've got a beautiful open window for being productive. So it's great news that Cancers have such a nice angle for this Taurian energy because this will really help you to be very productive and to make up for a lot of lost time that may have felt like lost time from last year and things going backwards and inwards for so long. So that could be really good news for you to shore up and solidify certain foundational things in any area of your life. Some other things to celebrate are opportunities with networking, friendships, social circles online or in other placements, enhancement or advancement or beginning, initiation of social media efforts or internet-based projects or work. All of these things are lighting up beautifully for Cancers at this time, and taking any steps along those fronts will be very well supported. If they're new steps, like doing something for the first time, the first half of the month has better support. If you're going back to something like revising old things, reviewing old things, then the second half of the month has better energy for that. Also, the second half of the month is really going to bring you into reconsidering your relationships with the social media and internet and your friendships in general. So this is a time where a lot of questions about friendships are coming up, for better and worse. You might have friends pop in from the past or people you knew from the past that come in a different context. And so it will be very busy socially. Things have been opening up. They are going to continue to open up. So a lot of in-person things will likely be happening for many people. And for those for whom it's not appropriate or not happening yet to do things in person, the virtual arena will be lit up amazingly. And this also is related to dating. If you're looking for dating, then people, like the first half of May is better for new dates and people that you've never met before, and the second half is better for people who you had connected with in the past and they're kind of coming back. Somebody might want to introduce you to somebody either in a romantic or a business context, and so there might be something important involving somebody else trying to do something for you. You also might be able to find some very good helpers or someone to connect you with someone that can help you do anything in your life that you're trying to do. Okay, so something else to celebrate is that Mars is going to be in your sign. And even though, yes, this is kind of on the edge here of things to celebrate, also things to watch out for, and this is our transition into that, when we have a planet moving through our sign, it's speaking the language that we speak. So the energy of ambition and drive and how you use your energy and vitality and your physical energy levels, all of that is speaking a language that you understand. And so it might more closely match how you maneuver through getting things done. Now, when Mars makes a bump right onto your placement, and that's going to happen for all of you anytime from the end of April all through May or the beginning of June, then you might feel, something having to do with aggression or a challenge or a fight or an argument or a conflict. That is a possible way it can manifest, but it doesn't have to be a terrible thing or a long-lived thing. It can just be something that shows you something that has to be addressed. And that could be how the energy manifests. Okay, so something else to watch out for is that is a thing to watch out for, but again, it could also be a blessing. Now, something to watch out for are these energies in Gemini. Energies moving into Gemini crowd into a place in your chart that start to awaken your subconscious mind and your fears and addictions and spiritual breakthroughs. So this is a time when it's, the time preparing before birthdays are going to be coming, and it's like the energy is starting to crowd here. And so over the next couple of months, you're going to see that you might have to face some fears, you might have to deal with some addictions, but if you face the fears and you conquer them, then you could find untold freedoms. And this is the beautiful upside of dealing with this. But if you ever notice, every year when the planets start getting into Gemini, and that's not always the exact time, the sun moves into Gemini in a similar time each year, but the other personal planets, Mercury and Venus, etc., it's a little bit staggered and scattered. But when this starts happening, it starts making things rump and bump in your mental space. Okay, and this could be a very positive thing because you could be a brainstorming ninja. You could, just come up with all of these wonderful ideas. You can have all these inspirations. For those of you who are, in resonance with connecting with people who have crossed over or having signs from people who've crossed over, I've seen, and I actually had one of these recently myself, where when this house is highlighted, it increases the odds of someone who's crossed over to get what seems like a clear message to you through someone or something. And, so you can look out in your dreams. Your dream life will likely be awakening at this time. And if you want to use your dreams or talk to your subconscious mind for healing, this is amazing for this. Also, anything having to do with psychology or hypnotherapy or past life regression, this is really strongly perfect for you right now. Okay, so you can see what I mean about this being some of these things being on the line here, because positive things can come from them, but there are also things to watch out for, and they kind of are riding this double edge. Okay, so something else to know, and we kind of alluded to this a bit, is that the second half of May is very different than the first half of May. And that has to do with Mercury sliding into retrograde as of May 16th. It's going into the shadow period and then getting into retrograde towards the end of May. The energies will be present in retrograde all through June, and it won't really start to be completely clear until after the first few days of July. So, mid-March to mid-May, open, blazing forward, outward expression. Second half of May, June, early July, inward, backward, going back over things. This is a time, the second half of May, June, and early July, when clarity that we had previously might start to fade out a little bit. Some more uncertainty might be cast. Plans or agreements that were made could be called into question or could be changed. Travel plans could be changed, and it's possible that you'll be traveling. This is a very strong travel time for everyone in the zodiac with the way the aspects are. And so those plans could be called into question, or those plans could be changed. Mercury retrograde can be a fine time to travel. It's a myth that it's not a fine time to travel, especially when Mercury is retrograde in Gemini, which rules, Mercury rules Gemini. So, but just know that your gates might change, your flight times and days might change. Look for emails like I just got. I had to make some family arrangements at the end of May, And already both of the flights got changed the day and the time. And so, gates getting changed, things like that. But if you can be flexible and go with the flow instead of rigid and trying to lock into things being an exact certain way, then you can have quite an enjoyable time of the changes. Just kind of know they're in flux. It's not a time to force things. It's not a time to try to force something to happen. It's definitely a time to go with the flow. And as I always talk about, the retrograde is also, and even the eclipses, so we've got retrograde and eclipses now, is a time to watch your web that you wove between the middle of March and the middle of May, and then just see what comes to you. And don't go trying to look for too much trouble. And Cancers in general, unless you have other placements that make this different for you, are really good at going with the flow, because that's the water way. So you'll have opportunities to practice something which might be natural for you already at this time to great effects. Okay, let's see. So a strategy that I wanted to talk about has to do with understanding the energy of Cancer. The energy of Cancer is cardinal, and it also goes backwards. Okay, so all of these energies that coincide with the changes of the seasons, like Cancer. So when we have the, solstice and we switch from Gemini to Cancer, it's a cardinal energy. So the signs that are at the beginning of the new seasons are cardinal. They instigate, they bring, new. But the energy of Cancer, as much as it is cardinal, it also reflects backwards to the back. That's why, or the past. So that's why Cancer energy is so nostalgic, why it pays attention to traditions, or tries to learn the lessons of people from the past. A lot of times the Cancers are the family record keepers, the keepers and the takers of photographs. There's this energy towards the past, and it's beautiful, and it works for you in many, many ways. But as you also know, I don't have to tell you, some of the ways that this work is not in your best interest. It keeps you down, it stresses you out, and it keeps you from moving forward. So a few strategies and remedies here that I want to suggest. One is a Bach flower remedy, B-A-C-H flower remedy called honeysuckle. I'm not saying to eat a honeysuckle plant. Some of them, that's not what I'm saying to do. I'm saying to get the Bach flower remedy. And these are harmless flower essences. And I mean, unless you're sensitive to alcohol, because they're usually stored in alcohol, and people who are sensitive to that, even a couple of drops could, not be good for someone. So you have to look into that. But if you don't have that issue, you could put this in your water, and it can help you to stay more present in the moment and move forward. Something else that I love has to do with the visualization of cutting cords. Okay. There are lots of cords and ties that you have to your past. You feel them, you know them. If you do an exercise, even if you just do it once a week, where you imagine all the things that you've been thinking about the past, and imagine them taking a form of a cord that's stretching behind you, and then put a quality to the cord, a texture, a weight, colors, get as many of your senses involved as possible in imagining this cord, and then ask whoever you pray to, or Archangel Michael, or, whoever, to come and cut the cord. And then you can ask for the energy that was going to the past to be brought back to you, clean, cleared, this is what I say, clean, cleared, multiplied, and amplified, swirling around in the form of personal power. So anything that was taking your power away due to leaning towards the past, if you bring it forward, because it's cut now, and you bless it there, and then the energy that was going there, you bring it back into your space. Doing this visualization regularly can really help you to not be weighed down by negative things from the past. So those are just a couple of strategies I wanted to suggest for you all that will help you deal with anything and everything that comes up now and always. So now we're going to talk in detail about these eclipses. The videos are a little longer this month because we really have to address these eclipses. So we're going to talk about eclipses and the time, the dates, all of this, and then after all that, we're going to talk about where exactly this is going to hit for Cancer placements, and I'll refer you to some other resources I've created that will be specific for you. The reason why I focus so much on eclipses during eclipse time is because they bring radical change, crazy trajectory shifts where you're going in one direction, then all of a sudden, almost overnight, you're heading in a completely different direction, dramatic endings, exciting new beginnings, clearing up of karma in a major way where you feel like, wow, something has occurred and now certain patterns are just behind you, and brand new ways of being open up. It's a very exciting time. It can also be a very stressful time, and some of the changes that come are not welcome. Some of the changes that come are things that you've been trying to manifest for sometimes your whole life. And so it's just a very, very powerful time of extreme energies. The principle in physics that talks about matter never being created nor destroyed, that it simply changes form, is very evident at eclipse time. And we can see it happening in some common things, like for instance, a grandparent passes away and a grandchild is born, or, you know, something notable goes on like that type of thing. You know, somebody retires, but then they start their post-retirement, you know, new project. And it's like the energy of what is removed doesn't leave. It just changes into this other form in this brilliant new beginning. And so you will either be a person who is having that happen in this, especially May, June time frame, or you'll be a person who's watching people around you have crazy things going on, and in some cases holding space for them, because it can be, you know, even positive changes can be pretty stressful or a lot to take in as you're going through a major transition. And a lot of times, if you're not the person going through that change, you're holding space for the other person, meaning you're there for them, you're holding their hand through it, or you're assisting them in some way. You can usually tell if you're going to be the person who's going through the changes or the person holding the space by the degree to which the sign and degree of the eclipse hits your personal planets. But since we have so many personal planets, we can't do that justice in general readings, but we can talk about some of that, which I tend to do, you know, in the horoscopes. But some people go through both of it, where they're holding space for other people who are going through a lot, and they themselves are going through a lot of change. Okay, so those are some must-knows. Now, just to give you a little perspective about this particular eclipse cycle, the Sagittarius-Gemini eclipse cycle. The last time we had this eclipse cycle was March 2011 through August 2012. And now it started again on May 2020 through January 2022. So it doesn't mean that everything that happened between March 2011 and August 2012 will occur again. It means that the things that occurred in that time that were related to the signs or houses that were accented for you are going to be themes that come up again. If something bad happened then, it doesn't mean something bad will happen now. It's just the areas of life that are activated, which of course I'm talking more about in, you know, this May and June report to tell you what areas of life will be active for you from the perspective of your sun or rising or whatever you're watching for. But in general, you can think back to that time and then notice what similar themes started to come up again, you know, around May of 2020 that have been going on. Now, the other must know about eclipses is it's like an eclipse cycle has several periods of time where there is the eclipse season, where everything gets heated up and right in the forefront, and then it kind of fades into the backdrop. And then the eclipse season happens again every 6 months. This goes on, and then it heats up, and then it kind of fades in the backdrop. So you'll also have noticed that whatever themes have come up for you, we had things that came up May, June, July of 2020. It's kind of like a pot boiling. The eclipses in the astrological perspective are not like they are in the astronomical perspective. From the astronomical perspective, they happen at that time and they're done. From the astrological perspective, there's this cycle that's working in the backdrop, and it's working on areas of your life, and it's active, and then it fades in the backdrop and it's active. Okay, so this is how I like to see this, is that in May of last year of 2020, we had the heat go up. And then in June and July, it was like a rapid boil, and then and then you took the heat off, and then it kind of like faded out into the backdrop. And then in November and December of 2020, the heat was on again, but then, you know, in January and then into February, March, April, we're like kind of down where the heat is off. Now, towards the end of April, the heat started coming on again of this 2021, and then May and June, we're at a full boil again with the eclipses. Then into July, it sort of starts to fade back down with the heat taken off into the backdrop. And then towards the end of the year, we'll have our final Gemini Sagittarius heat up and then fade out into January 2022 rather. And it will be done, and we'll be on to the next cycle. Okay, so in general, anything involving cars, transportation, including, you know, guarding yourself while you're driving. You have to be extra careful during Gemini and Sagittarius eclipse cycles, because it tends to highlight transportation. And so that can bring, you know, accidents or things with cars or vehicles or walking or your mobility. You don't have to be afraid. It's just to become more aware. So anything having to do with how we share information and how we take in information and how we share it. Education, we can see since last year, we thought that it was COVID that did this, right? But it was really part of an astrological cycle that was bringing the topic of education and how we are getting educated into the forefront. So now we have new breakthroughs and new storylines with how we're getting educated, kids and adults. Also, how we're commuting or not commuting to work. So you can see as of, you know, the spring of 2020, the fall for those of you down under, and now in the spring of 2021, in the fall for those of you down under, where we're back in this, okay, what are we going to do with the kids in school? Who's going to wind up staying home? What are we doing with work? People are working from home. All of this is very much related to this eclipse cycle. It's more related to this eclipse cycle than it is COVID. COVID is part of the storyline, but COVID is also astrological. And if you want more information about that, search for Annie Botticelli coronavirus and watch my very in-depth video talking about how astrological cycles are really at the source of the things that we think are related to COVID. COVID is part of the astrology, not the cause of everything that's going on. So in any case, we will see things involving international topics. Immigration has been a very hot topic since last year, especially. And we're seeing the storylines of that unfold. Anything having to do with relationships with different countries and our international business. All of that is very much related to the eclipse cycle of the Sagittarius Gemini. So all signs will be seeing those storylines heating up into the forefront. Something else that is a major must know about eclipse time and eclipses in general is that the eclipse cycle matches the North and South node transit. So for those of you who know about North and South nodes, maybe you didn't know that there was a direct relationship between the eclipse cycle and the North and South nodes. They're both running along the ecliptic. And the ecliptic is a very important area of focus in astrology, because this has to do with your karma and your dharma. So the difficult patterns that you brought in, whether it was through your own soul's, you know, behaviors and journey, or whether it was through ancestral things that have gone on in your particular DNA, or whether it's the human consciousness that's undergoing evolution, all of those karmic pieces are represented in the South Node energies. And then the North Node energies speak to our highest expression this lifetime, our highest evolution, our dharma, what we came here to do. So eclipse time always is very rich with opportunities to clear karma, clear old patterns, clear programming that's not working, and set up new wiring, solidify the trace of a suggestion that's sitting there waiting to be actualized in the form of our highest destiny, taking steps into making those pathways be solid and more of your norm. So it's very much a time where you have opportunities to step into your highest expression in major ways and let go of major old patterns, and it become revitalized and have your life just opened up in ways that you've only dreamed of. So it's a very exciting time. I mean, what is there in the mind of the seeker that could be more important than stepping into your highest destiny and your highest expression this lifetime, right? And so the eclipses bring us on there, you know, fate points, fate meetings, fate, you know, endings, divine, destined or faded endings, faded beginnings, you know, things that have that sense of like, wow, this is really faded here. This is really destined. You'll feel that the energy of synchronicity moving you in these magical, you know, ways that you can't, you know, you have to acknowledge that, wow, obviously there's something else at work here. It's a very magical time. And it's a very intense time. And your nervous system will be under duress, and you'll probably need more sleep, but it may be harder to sleep, and you might need more of your nervous system support and your adrenal support. And those are ways that you can really maximize this time, because the better rested you are and the more your body has the nutrition that it needs, the easier it is for you to manage what's going on. Sometimes someone will say, well, what do these supplements and these things you talk about have to do with astrology? And in my mind, they have everything to do with astrology, because if you're trying to have the best possible experience, and you know that there are intense times coming, how you experience those intense times is going to be affected tremendously by the state of your adrenals and the state of the rest of your whole nervous system and your other systems. So if they are working well and well supported, then as the stresses come, it's easier for you to step into your superhero self and have an easier experience of the challenges that come. And the challenges, like I said, could be super positive, but still challenges just the same. Like, let's say someone buys their, you know, dream house, and that certainly could happen now. Well, the leaving of the old house, the actual move, the logistics, you know, there is stress involved even in the best of changes. And those are the types of things that are going to be occurring in this May-June timeframe in a very big way. Okay, so now you have a really solid foundation in the energy of the eclipses, the timelines, and all of this. So I'm going to refer you out to a couple of videos, and then I'm going to give you some more details and then refer you out again. So the first video is one called Eclipses in Sagittarius. If you just search for Annie Botticelli, Eclipses in Sagittarius, or go to my YouTube homepage and see the Eclipse playlist, this is going to give you really great information about the implications of this sign of this eclipse. Then if you look for Eclipses in Gemini, Annie Botticelli, Eclipses in Gemini, then you'll find the energies that go with that eclipse. And that's important now in May, because 4 to 6 weeks before the eclipse, there's a Gemini eclipse in June, we're going to start feeling that in May. So you'll want to have a heads up about that. Now, specific for Cancer, you also want to look for my eclipses in Leo video, because most of you are going to have the eclipse in the 5th house of Leo. Children, romance, true love, your bucket list, your hobbies, your creative passions, all of that. And then if your birthday is, if you're a June-born Cancer up to the first couple of days of July, you'll also want to watch my Eclipses in Virgo video. Okay, now if you are a person who understands charts and you're saying, hey, wait a minute, Sagittarius rules the 6th house of Cancer, so why are you saying the eclipse is going to be in the 5th house? So I can easily answer that. When you're looking at whole house astrology, which is a different system than I use, then the eclipse is in the same house for everyone. And there is truth to that. There's truth to all of the systems. But the system that I use and many astrologers use is called Placidus. And in Placidus, when you get later in the degree, or later in degree of the sign, whether it's through your sun or rising or moon or whatever it is, it shifts things back. And since this is an early degree, it's 6th degree eclipse, only those of you in that first area are going to actually have it in, like some of you July born, and then those of you in the end of the July born, June born, are going to have an early July, are going to have it in or very close to the 6th house. But even those of you who are June born, early July, you might have the Virgo manifestations, health, pets, your daily work, self-employment, your job space, things like that. And I go into much more detail in the Eclipses for Virgo video. Even though it's going to be there for you early degree placements, or 0 to 11 degrees if you're watching for your moon in Cancer, or rising Cancer, or whatever other Cancer placement, it's still on the line and close enough to the 5th house that you're also going to have the chance of having it there, okay? That's why I'm saying for all Cancer placements to watch the Eclipses in Leo video. and for those of you in the earlier designation to also watch the Virgo ones. If you would like even more information on how you can maximize the starry possibilities, click on the little arrow underneath the video that says more, and that little arrow click will reveal all the notes below the video. Most of the time that I spend working is spent doing free offerings, and you can see what all those are and get the links directly to them in the notes below the video. First thing to do is go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter. Not only will you get my happy scopes, a sneak peek into the highlights of all of the months of 2021. Right now, you can see all of that immediately, but you'll also get a more detailed overview of each month, 1 month early, the sweet and salty dates of the aspects, what you can expect from them, and a general write-up of the month ahead delivered into your inbox 1 month early. You also get a free sign-on bonus called Shine, which is my virtual 28-day coaching program. And this is very, very, very detailed, and it can really help support you in your conscious evolution and breaking out of old patterns. So you get all of that when you sign up at anniehelpsyou.com. You'll see it right on the front page. It'll say, "Hi, friend," and then it'll have space for your name and email address. The next thing to make sure to do is go to my school, lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. It's Luminous Life Multiversity, and I've got free courses there, including one to help you ramp up your abundance called Unleash Your Money Magnet. You can also see my paid courses there, including my crazy comprehensive astrology program called Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. If you'd like to do astrology as part or all of your professional offering, or just become adept enough for your own process or to help other people, you will love, love, love this course, especially if you resonate with my work. And you can see that at lumelife.com, and plus the other courses there. Also, go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. That's my other beautiful website where I and a few amazing up-and-coming bloggers that I have selected to be part of this with me are giving you amazing offerings every month, and a lot of it is astrology kissed. So herbal teas for the signs and the sun's movement, hypnosis, healing frequencies for each sign. You'll love this site. It's called cozybysweetstarlight.com. Then also, don't forget about my books. I write books as well. I've got a book called Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days. And this is a beautiful book of prayers and affirmations that you can use over a moon cycle or however you're drawn to use it. Then my very, very in-depth book called Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe. And it does exactly that. So it's a very detailed, long, comprehensive book to help you align with the starry rhythms. And another very exciting thing that I want to share this month is it's the month of my boy, Seamus. We call him Seamus Blue Moon. It's his birthday in May, and he is having some offerings that are starting to come out. So you can see some work of his artwork in the link below. In the future, you will see him teaching courses at my school. He's working on a course now. So he's also a rune master, an amazing reader of runes. So you'll start to see more by him coming soon. And so this is his beautiful launch into the public. So you can check out some of his artwork in the link below in the More button. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.